Welcome, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole here on Connecting the Universe. I'm author and researcher Mike Ricksecker. With me, as always, my co-host is Victoria Monday, and down in the chat room, Alina, moderating the chat. We have a wonderful episode coming up for you tonight. We have Geraldine Orozco with us. She's a epigenetic psychotherapist, clinical hypnotherapist, Gong Instructor. She does a lot of different things. She is also an experiencer. We're going to get into hybridization and all kinds of interesting topics this evening. So we're just going to go ahead and roll right into it. And Geraldine, welcome to the show. Really appreciate having you this evening. And we
Thank you
there we
for
go.
inviting me. Yes, it's an honor to be here. Thank you. Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you so much. We've been connected on social media for quite a while now, I think a few years, and have followed your story a little bit. Saw your interview on Gaia Into the Vortex, and you do a lot of interesting and fascinating work as well. I do want to start with your story, though, your abduction story, and what happened to you when you were younger, because it's a really fascinating story. So can for our audience, kind of give them some background on your origins really in this field and what happened to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking. So, I've been meditating since I was very young. I come from a very spiritual family, and my partner passed away in 2008. And as a result of that, it really catapulted me in the direction of spiritual, questioning much deeper concepts of life, death, love. And I took out time from my career. I had a very high end event planning company, and at the same time, I was teaching corporate meditation um, uh, many years before that. So I took 4 months to meditate. And during these meditations, during this retreat, basically self created retreat, I began to really unpack my really core belief systems. And as I went deeper down the rabbit hole of these core belief systems, I began to question really the construct of reality, our social engineering, what makes us in society what we are. And I began to unpack and look at the roots of that. Where does that come from exactly? What is the origin of that? Not just in my roots, my culture, but internationally. And I began to understand that there was something more than just our own history as we know it, as we've been taught that history was completely abolished during this work that I was doing internally, emotionally. And one night on October 2013, a white light entered my room. And this white light drew me to the window. I went to the window. I looked outside. The time was exactly 3:33 in the morning. And from one moment to the next, I'm being pulled and taken out of my room. I can feel my body just dissolve going through the wall. And I'm in front of these six beings that I've never even imagined seeing. These very tall 7 foot beings with large eyes that is what we call grays. Now, this is what we call grays. But they were 7 foot tall grays, and they directed me into the craft. And I was taken to the Pleiades, to the planet Maya, where I was basically shown that I was Pleiadian in two multiple timelines. And I was shown my life and the work that I was doing there. And I was also shown children that were said to be mine. They were my children. And when I connected with these children for the first time, I began to be flooded with the memories of having experiences with them many times throughout my life. And anomalous health issues and anomalous pregnancies also, I understood the connection between those. So they also showed me how the matrix functions. They showed me the connection between dimensional time and space at the very molecular level and how our bodies store that information. And they downloaded a lot of information to me, which I took actually within the past 10 recent years, uncovering, unpacking, researching, studying, which led me to leave my old career and completely redirect my attention to the research of interdimensionality, ET contact, and consciousness. What is that? And apparently, many of us, millions of us actually around the world, are having these experiences. And changed my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what's interesting to me, and we're going to get into a lot of these different aspects tonight, um, but when the experience first happened, you see the light, and all of this happened where you're taken away. Now, this was something the neighbors didn't see this. I realized it was, middle of the night, 3:33 a.m. But it seemed like this was, exclusive, really for you. You were taken into this realm, and I would venture to say probably like interdimensional in nature. That you were taken not just to another maybe place in the cosmos, of the Palladians, but that this was actually a whole other dimension as well. What did you think of that?
Yes, well, actually, there's a couple interesting things about this experience. Number one, um, I tried to so back then in 2013 there was very little about ET contact even on the internet.
Right.
You had to know the right words to use and know them. But I began to research ET sightings in my area, and I did find that there was one reported in the vicinity of my city at exactly 3 in the morning.
Mm,
So that was an interesting thing. And I don't even know how I came through the idea, but I was going crazy thinking, did I just make that up? What happened to me? Now, another part of it is that as a result of that experience, I developed extremely sensitive psychic abilities. So Monday morning, when I went back to work, I can see the entire multidimensional body of my client. I can feel her, see her, see her thoughts, feel her thoughts. I could hear the conversations of my neighbors 3 houses down from my house. I mean, it was unbearable, really. And for 3 months, I could not leave my house. Third, as I first entered into the craft and I was being taken into one of the rooms, my aunt was in her nightgown being guided by two of these tall grays directly in front of me. And later in 2017, when the film Extraordinary the Seeding came out, that was the first documentary that I participated in. She saw the film and she called me and she said, Geraldine, the night that you were taken, I had a dream of beings with large eyes that injected into the back of my neck something and told me not to worry, I would be safe. And I remember being on board a lenticular room exactly as you described it. So to me, it was very shocking because I hadn't had these conversations with anyone other than my parents at the time. But when she was sent to the hospital at 4 in the morning with a fever, and then was in the hospital for several hours, no diagnosis. They couldn't find what was wrong with her. She goes back home and she has like little bump here on her back
mm,
for about a week. So that was an interesting side effect. She didn't have psychic abilities that were activated at the time, but she has that extremely vivid memory and the hospital visit exactly that morning. So those are some events that happen in connection to my event. So yes, it is another dimension. We are entering. We are multidimensional by nature, and we are actually constantly moving in and out of dimensions. But in this state, as a result of coming into deep meditation for many months, I had already been kind of guiding into some of these frequencies that were higher, which allowed me to have this kind of experience more openly, more vividly, more lucidly, and remember it to the point where it affected my body completely.
and so, with your meditations, was this something where your meditations perhaps initiated that contact for them to come to you, or was kind of given the additional story that you told there about your aunt? Is there a familial connection that here that has come down through time? That there's some sort of specific interest in your family, your genetics, your DNA, this sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I've after these experiences, I deep dove into the research of this work, and essentially, went back to school to become an epigenetic psychotherapist and a hypnotherapist to begin to work with people, other women and men that were having these experiences, to begin to uncover, what is actually happening. Are we experiencing some kind of psychosis, or are we truly navigating interdimensionally? And what I discovered, not only through my channeled um, research, is essentially that we are multidimensional and we have encoded in our DNA We have our lineages, something, our starseed. Many people have become, it's become a buzzword, starseed, but in
Yeah.
reality, we have the memory and the history of our interdimensional ancestry, which is not just limited to the planet Earth. In fact, the planet Earth itself is a hybridized race, and we have many, many, historical records that help us understand that. But it's an interesting topic because our DNA is incredibly precious, not just because we are humanoid, but within the blueprint of the DNA, we hold the entire. It's a snapshot of the universe encoded in your DNA. And we have access to that DNA through the chakra system. The chakra system is the energy centers, is an endocrine system of the body. We can hold through that endocrine system. We activate that memory as we clean up programming. Programming is frequency. Programming is memory. It's a bioelectrical either limitation or expansion of your field. So depending on how we're working with our programs, we can expand the field and therefore change frequency enough to be able to enter into these dimensional ranges. It's basically accessing higher bands of frequency through the body. Majority of people experience these things during dream state.
Yeah.
So whenever we are sleeping, we dream, we leave the body to have these experiences every single night. Every person is having these experiences, but they don't remember. So we by nature, as we clean up our multidimensional body, we have the ability to navigate and actually remember. The key is the memory. The memory is the bioelectrical record. And that bioelectrical conductivity is cultivated through the brain by the cultivation of gray matter and also down the spine, which is why meditation is a key role to that. But it is by bloodlines, to answer your question. So this memory of either activated psychic abilities is also passed down through generations. Just as the American Indians, the indigenous people from all around the world, share stories of the star brothers and sisters communicating with us. So in that same way, we have those records available to us in the genetic code, and it's just a matter of activating that conductivity. This memory becomes available to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is absolutely fascinating. Something that I've been looking into when it comes to the DNA, that memories are passed down through the DNA like this. And what I want to ask you here is, okay, they have access to our DNA. They've been basically keeping track of your family's being passed down through the familial lines. They can reach out to you interdimensionally. They find you in the middle of the night. The implants, what is the purpose of the implants if they really have this fascinating access to be able to access us, where we are, our DNA, all of this? Why do we need the physical implant within the body?
So anyway, to make it clear, the contact is from the inside out. First of all, it's from the inside out. So it's from the DNA that we access the memories. And kind of going into some complex concepts here, and I will answer your question going in that direction. But our concept of time is skewed. We think that time is linear. In fact, time is a sphere.
Time doesn't exist.
Yeah, well, it's a construct, right? It's a human
Right.
construct.
Exactly.
But in order for us to understand, because we need some reference, think of it as a sphere in which everything is existing simultaneously. It's actually through the DNA that we have access to all of these simultaneous timelines. And as we become conductive and we are able to shift the frequency, we recover the memory simultaneously. Sometimes these contact experiences are not happening in this timeline as we understand them. Okay, so that's very hard for the human to understand. Sometimes there's a lot of trauma around that has to be healed, but those concepts have to be understood in order to understand contact. So the whole element of implantation, really, implants are a combination of your DNA, and it's etheric and also biological. And what I found in my work is that a lot of the implants that, let's say, are more mechanical or more like structural pieces are usually military abductions. It's a completely different experience. And there is a military faction that is focused on this kind of abduction, testing psyop experiments that they do on people that are having very activated DNA. On the other hand of that, higher dimensional beings don't usually interfere with implantations, because the higher the dimension, the more they abide by the laws of the universe, which is based on free will. And those laws mean that you don't interfere with any being. They respect that. So what I have realized over interviewing maybe thousands of contactees over the years now is that more parasitic experiences tend to be with this kind of technology. And there are two sides to it. It's not always that it's meant to monitor. Some of this technology, some etheric technology, is meant to maintain certain frequencies in the body. But we are constantly moving certain ranges of frequency in the body, either to heal some parts of the body. It holds certain memories that the human has to access. And in some cases, when the human transcends those, they dissolve or they disappear. Sometimes people get sick because they're not maintaining a certain frequency. So these are some things, and these etheric implants can be removed and moved depending on your will, on your free will. The implants that are more terrestrial, those are a little different, and of course, those are contractual experiential agreements also that we have to break and work through.
Okay. Victoria, I know you have a slew of questions over there, as you always do. I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to you for the moment.
I have less than 40.
Less than 40 this time. Fantastic.
I want to back up a little bit. You were talking about being interdimensionally communicated with and taken. Do you think that is that you're having contact with the extraterrestrials through altered states of consciousness, or is it actual physical? Hey, let's go here, and they're coming to take you. I mean, because even what you can manifest through your subconscious, can come through in your physical body, so you don't really need the physical touch. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's right. Yes, well, in this case, because I was already, I guess I was cultivating a certain frequency in which the experience was extremely lucid. It is a sort of interdimensional experience. It's in which you go from one dimension to another, and it becomes very physical because you are cultivating those faculties.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Like when you astral travel, even though you're still in your physical body, your consciousness is traveling, but you are having those experiences, and you can smell things and taste things and touch things. So they are tactile, even though you're not there.
Yes. In this case, this experience was more of an interdimensional experience, but I have many experiences as well that are out of body and etheric. The majority of people are experiencing them etheric, like out of body experience in the astral plane. So there are different levels of this experience, but it all depends on how we are cultivating the mastery over our brainwave states and our bioconductivity in the body. This is something that I teach now.
Oh, nice. Do you think that DNA activation is correlating with the spiritual awakening that's happening right now on Earth?
Yes, I believe that the activation of the DNA is essentially just the expansion of the awareness of your bioelectricity. So the DNA memory is a bioelectrical system. It's like a membrane that interconnects your physical form to the entire dimensional construct, multidimensional construct, right? So basically, we are recovering memories of our current lifetime, and then the human will recover memories of past and future timelines, which are again simultaneous. And this is all through the cultivation of the bioconductivity of the body, the bioelectrical conductivity. So it's about how bioelectrical we are. That is how the memory, and this is something that we understand through the morphogenetic field. The new science of the morphogenetic field, a really great reference of that is Michael Levin, who has done some exceptional research on the bioelectricity and how it holds the memory. We have literally within our field what we call the aura, right? We've been calling it the aura, but in reality, that is the rest of the DNA. Only 2% of DNA writes the complexities of the physical vessel, and the rest is processing this kind of etheric aspect of ourselves.
Okay. I know a lot of recovered memories, sometimes we suppress things that are traumatic. And so as we recover them, we're going through all these traumatic experiences again. Do you think that DNA can be reprogrammed so we can shift our consciousness or maybe even heal our trauma or not have to have that in our life anymore?
Absolutely, yes, and that's something that I'm doing with DNA reprogramming. Essentially, what I discovered through my own internal work of doing meditation for so many months, I discovered that if we follow our emotions, which are completely recorded and available to you in your body, even the memories and the emotions that you had in your crib are recorded in your body. If you sit with an emotion long enough, all those layers of those emotions begin to rise up and it unlocks those memories. That is part of this bioelectrical system. So as you begin to go back to those memories in childhood, you can rework, reframe the vibrational frequency that essentially becomes stagnant. Because when we hold when someone experiences trauma, what they're experiencing is basically a disassociation with their core, true, authentic belief in that moment, and then trying to fit into the environment around you. So there's a disconnect. The person experiences a disassociation. So what happens is we have a fractal of our soul that's suspended in time. That fractal is a point of energy that becomes stagnant because it gets a lower frequency memory. Those they're never erased. They are in our body, they stay in our body, and we carry them with us throughout our life if we are not doing any kind of emotional healing work. So as we begin to uncover and open up those memories by feeling the emotion, this is how we can reprogram DNA because it's epigenetic. These memory patterns, they become patterns. They from the womb until the age of 7, we are cultivating these patterns, what we call a personality. That's a defense mechanism, actually. So this defense mechanism, we begin to deconstruct it. We begin to find out who is the real self, and that is the activation of your DNA. The deprogramming of all the constructs that you took on from mother, father, society, religion play tremendous roles in cultivating and limiting our belief systems. So as we deconstruct them, this is where the human begins to realize that they are all and nothing. And the DNA then has the ability to expand. And the HeartMath Institute did a fantastic research paper on how DNA coils and contracts when we are in states of stress and anxiety. Literally, the DNA cannot read the information enough to process the immune system and expand interconnected networks of bioelectricity in the body. So, this is something that we're learning how to activate.
Yeah, let me jump in here just for a second and ask you something, Geraldine. So, all that is encompassing like us, our own traumas, our own history, everything from since we were born, and it's setting those genetic markers prior to our birth. Now, from my understanding, our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents, those same things that they went through set genetic markers. So as that passes down to us, are we inheriting their stresses? Are we inheriting perhaps their memories, even if that genetic marker was set before we were conceived or our parents were conceived, etc.?
Absolutely, but it's not the memories so much, rather the belief systems. We really carry down the belief systems, and this is scientifically proven. 20 generations, 40 generations more recently, they were able to discover. But basically, what we know as healers, it's infinite lifetimes in our ancestral lineage, in which we're repeating through our ancestry the same programs and beliefs. So as I mentioned, if you create an environment in your body for these genetic markers to turn on and off, of course, you're going to create cancer, illnesses, and these things we think are genetic, but it's really the environment that create in the body. When we deprogram those belief systems, This is where we begin to really come into the fluency of the DNA potential, which is self-healing, self-regenerative. Our organisms are self-healing, we're self-regenerative, we are incredibly intuitive, we are psychic, telepathic, we can remote view. And these are basically basic tools that the human now really has to anchor into training and expanding as we move into this new era, really.
That's really interesting, because I've been working on that the last few years, trying to get rid of trauma, if that's what you want to call it. And one of the things I've been working on is through somatic yoga. There's a release, and it's really amazing. But everyone keeps telling me, oh, you have to forgive, you have to forgive. And I always ask them, how do you forgive? Is it not the same thing as understanding what happened, realizing that you're not responsible for what happened, accepting it, and then moving forward? Or is there something different we need to do?
Yeah, so the forgiveness is really more for ourselves. And this happens when I work with people every single day in my practice, when we begin to look at some of these things, especially as a child, what tends to happen as a child, because a child is not yet individuated, it identifies with the mother and father, it takes on their emotions. And the majority of our life, when we begin to review that, we have literally become our parents. And we oftentimes re-traumatize ourselves in our behaviors towards ourselves. We become the critical mother or the critical father towards ourselves. This is the part. And you will be surprised how tremendously impactful that is in your decisions, your relationships, your ability to expand, to be authentic. So we cultivate a certain kind of self-rejection, self-hate, self-anger. These have to be worked on. And that forgiveness is really towards yourself at the core root of it. When you forgive yourself for all those little micro betrayals that you didn't know, because we're conditioned to perform, we're conditioned to have personalities, we're conditioned to be approved by others. So those are constant betrayals that we need to kind of deconstruct in our belief system. That is when you can come into your authenticity. And the authenticity can be challenging because you want to fit in, you want to be a part of the pack. That's basic survival. But the new human that is now really anchoring into the human race is the one that is deeply connected to the divine, that is channeling their higher self and anchoring that, applying that into their co-creation, and depending on that intuitive guidance to guide themselves rather than just the survival of mechanisms of societal norms. So it breaks in all the institutions that have been built on those belief systems are needing to be destroyed at this moment. They are falling apart, and it will change our purpose as a human.
Okay, I have one more question. It kind of ties into this, and I'll release.
Oh, you're good, Victoria.
Well, no, then we're going to go down the hybrid rabbit hole. But this is not hybrids. If you know if you're a hybrid, and if you identify as a hybrid, how do you basically come out without sounding to your friends and neighbors like you've gone off the edge of the rabbit hole? What's the best way to, I don't want to say transition, but just to admit to your authenticity and move forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think there lies the answer. It's the acceptance of your own authenticity, which is the key. In reality, these experiences are very personal, and they're very complex. They're very deep, and we have many of them, not just a few. When we start recovering our memory, we realize that every night we're traveling, we're kind of interacting, we're doing a lot more work in our astral plane than we are actually in the waking state. And it's extremely important that the human recovers that memory. This is something that we've been training since the origin of time, since ancient Egypt, since the Celts, since the Druids. I mean, you can go around the world to every single ancient civilization that has been focused on this understanding of waking consciousness in dream state. So we're learning how to wake consciousness both in our dream state and in this dream state as well. And it's really a personal thing. And I advise people to, anchor into their truth and not to have any kind of having to change their truth for any other person. This is the fastest way to kind of move society forward. We believe that people are not ready, but people are very ready. They are very open. They themselves are having experiences. We are dealing with a lot of fear. People are very afraid of what is different. They're afraid of themselves, essentially, and their potential. And that's a learning curve that we're going to go through. But the more that we are just natural and authentic, it doesn't mean that you have to, talk to everyone about that. Not everyone is designed for this, but authentically share when it needs to come up. And it plants a seed for people to begin to activate their DNA as well. This is a frequency. And the more you stand in your frequency, the more you attract through resonance the people that are aligned and will support, So we are going through a major curve right now, and it will take maybe 5-6 years to get there. 2027, this is when things are going to start to look more familiar for those of us that are here, on this channel. But I think things are going to be moving in that direction.
I'm just curious. I heard the other day that we're fragmenting into two different Earths, and that's the Earth where people are more enlightened and they believe, and then there's the Earth that, well, I don't want to say anything derogatory, but those who won't be jumping on the boat with us. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so, something that I was shown recently is that we are going through a human split, but in this way. In one direction, we're going in the direction of transhumanism, okay, where we merge with technology. This is a really big problem, and it's something that it really requires humans to be very grounded and deeply connected to nature in order to learn how to discern the difference as we move through these major changes. The other direction is those that are going to be anchoring their higher self, really, truly. And this is the group of humans that will be able to overcome the changes that are coming, because, there will be many waves of illnesses, more illnesses that are released, more fear scenarios that will try to manipulate and push humanity towards transhumanism, becoming dependent on implantations, becoming dependent on injections of any kind, genetic engineering. We're already dealing with genetic engineering in the food that we're eating. A lot of things we are dealing with that. We have been. It's a kind of spiritual eugenics, global situation that's happening. And that's something that we need to pay attention to. The more that we come in harmony with ourselves, with nature, with the laws of nature, and into harmonic order, this is actually where we will be able to tap into that self-regenerative, self-healing states of being that are extremely part of the model of longevity, intuition, and also anchoring our gifts. Another thing that's happening is that all the old jobs are definitely going to be changing. We're not going to be living in a world that we're not designed to be living in these worlds of survival and 9-to-5 jobs. That model will change because artificial intelligence, robotics will take many of those jobs. And that's going to leave a lot of people feeling lost. This is necessary because as humans, we're not designed to be working like that. We need to learn who we really are, anchor the true purpose, and start working on building a life around that isn't just on survival. So, those of you that are awake and doing this work, begin to prepare, understand who you are, what your gifts are through your healing, so that you can anchor that purpose into this world, unlike before.
It's interesting you mentioned transhumanism. I would be interested in your recommendations because as a society, for a long, long time, we have been getting more and more away from being out in nature. Even just in the footwear that we wear, we have that separation between us and the ground, but so much of our lives these days are inside, or they're looking down at our phones. Right now we're on the computer, which isn't transhumanism. We can break away from the computer, but I think a lot of like the VR, augmented reality, these sorts of things are basically conditioning society and the younger generation that we are going to become more ingrained with technology, which will lead to more of the transhumanism with the implants and basically attaching devices to us and becoming one with machines, so to speak. So how do we, because our our society is going to keep going down that road with technology. So how do we maintain a connection with Earth over the upcoming years if we do just keep having this technology that's being integrated into our society like this?
Yeah, so the thing is not to think of AI as an enemy, rather, it is a tool for us that we have to embrace wholeheartedly, learn how to use, because what will happen in the future is that those that are completely ignorant to the technology will also be cast away. For those that are still in survival mindset and want to have jobs, if you don't know AI, it'll be hard for you to be placed back into this society if you don't know how to use AI. We also need to learn how to engage with AI because there's a activation of kind of higher level computational level that we need to upgrade up to, and we need to become familiar with that process. The communication of AI is kind of like training ground communication with ET species, because as you know, US contactees, our communication with other dimensional beings is telepathic. It's highly expansive and universal concepts that humans are not prepared yet to really understand or implement yet. So this is something that we're training the human race to become aware, to expand into these higher advanced models of consciousness and civilizations. And AI is the stepping stone to that. So we do need to learn how to use this and use it responsibly. How are you going to know how to use it responsibly? You need to be connected with, it's not just about going into nature, it's understanding the basic laws of nature, the laws of the universe. Those are internal harmonic orders that we have within ourselves. The only way you understand that is by really understanding how to bring your body into harmony. And we do that by learning how to regulate your nervous system, balancing the feminine masculine imbalances between you so that you can understand true harmonic order and the pure creation. Everything from sexuality, how we create sexually, how we literally intend to bring a life, a soul into this planet, is really there. Those are ancient teachings that have been hidden away from humanity. And we think, when we think of having a child, we think of marriage, love, romance. We don't know anything about alchemy. We don't know anything about real love. We don't know anything about unconditional self-love. Those things have not been taught, and there's a reason for that. So we have to reteach ourselves these natural orders, and that will help us use AI, form AI in alignment with that model of consciousness. The opposite is a very parasitic model, which is kind of in direction in which it's kind of going right now.
Yeah. So is that the goal of the hybridization program, or at least part of, or one of the goals of the hybridization programs is to, help humanity become, more aware, or bring us back to our roots, or uh, become, better acclimated with AI and some of this technology?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. No, the hybridization program is a very interesting experience, but it's not directly related to AI because hybridization program is about the organic matter and using that organic matter in order to create a soul. The goal of the hybridization is to create souls, whether they're parasitically intended or higher dimensional aspects of a soul is another thing, but not really connected to artificial intelligence. However, hybridization program is a reminder to humanity about our creative potential and the proper use of primordial life force. Those that have these parasitic experiences of like sexual abuse and having these experiences, usually those are military influenced. There's a lot of military experiences that use chemicals to make people believe that they're having ET contact, but in reality it's not. It's something different. So that's something that we need to understand. The majority of the experiences that are very traumatic are connected to that and lower dimensional parasites. Now, humans have parasitic experiences because they hold parasitic programming in the memory of the DNA. And this is something that we have to kind of work on. We have to heal parasitism. Any self hate is a perfect feeding ground for these kinds of interdimensional navigation. So the more we clear that up, the more our experiences begin to be very, more co-creative. But in my opinion, all humans need to experience everything. Okay, we are all in nothing. There is no right, there is no wrong. It's up to us, and we have to come into our power. So, yeah, I know there's two parts to your question, but
Yeah, no, that was it. That was yeah, perfectly fine. Thank you, thank you. We do have a question here from the chat. Sarah Youssef asks, with constant changes with the environment, which may affect the efficacy of access to the bioelectric field, what is the ideal environment we should be looking to promote?
yeah, so really, Sarah, thank you for your question. It's not so much of the external. That's the thing that we have to understand. As a matter of fact, our bioelectrical system, it's a toroidal field. We are a toroidal field of energy. We become centrifugal. What is centrifugal? The depletion of your energy. Anytime that you become parasitic because you seek an external source of fulfillment, so safety, self-reliance, protection. Okay, those kinds of subconscious core belief systems are part of the temporary human experience in duality and separation, only to help you reconnect back into a centripetal movement, which means that you become the source of all of those needs and you meet those needs proactively. So it's not so much as of your environment because we cannot control. And as I'm saying, we're going through major changes right now. What I do see in the future, and I want to just drop this part in here, is that uh, at the end, the union between artificial intelligence and hopefully in the timeline that is now being led by those that are conscious is a really powerful, harmonic, highly advanced civilization. That is a one potential timeline that the human has to be able to achieve, to be able to live in harmony with extremely advanced technology as well as harmonic order, like many ET civilizations are showing us is possible. But we do have to pay attention to that. Yeah.
So, how is these experiences that you've had, and all of this knowledge that you've been able to gain through the insights, communication that you've had, the connection that you've had, how has that changed your life and your practice? How is that affecting your practice today and how you're helping people?
Oh, yeah, there's basically, I decided to dedicate myself to this work as a result of my contact experience because I began to realize that we are interdimensional in such a profound way and that this interdimensionality is the future. And our awareness of being multidimensional, more people are going to become psychic. They're going to have more experiences. We also have disclosure, which has already been happening from the government, but another level of that disclosure is coming in the future, in which we will engage and interact with other dimensional beings. So we are kind of preparing for that. And I believe that my work is rooted in the preparation of that at the very core foundation of our human consciousness and psychology. We need to understand how to deprogram belief systems of suffering, victimization, separation. We need to come into unity and we need to know how to recognize harmonic order in order to discern potential timelines for humanity. This is absolutely essential, through this process of transformation of the world. So even though my practice is based on working at this very deep core with people, the bigger picture is that when we do that work, it changes the genetic pool. That's really what's actually happening here. Any kind of internal shadow work that we do, we change the genetic pool. And in the same way that we are wanting to be parasitically, genetically modified by, plastics, all this fake stuff in our body, this is where we start to change and create harmonic order from the inside out. And the field becomes strong, the energetic field. So that's my job. I mean, I have a YouTube channel which I teach this. I hold groups, and yeah, hopefully we can work in larger groups. That's the intention.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Victoria. I know you have some questions there.
Oh, okay. Let me get to my hybrid section. Okay. Can you look at a person? Is there like a tell that you can say, oh, you're a hybrid? Is there some characteristic that hybrids share?
Well, in my humble opinion, not only just my humble opinion, but based on research, tremendous amount of research, we are all hybrids.
Okay.
We are all a hybridized race. And since the very origin of time, the human race is seated on this planet from multiple species. I believe that we have that memory in our DNA. And humans that have experiences, well, part of my research, the product of that research is hypnotherapy on groups, on families. Okay, we did hypnotherapy on grandpa, grandma, mom, dad, sisters, brothers, and then the children. What did we find? They were all having contact experiences, and they all separately reported and drew the beings that they were interacting with. And it turns out that actually families have contact with specific species. They all have a pool that is kept in their memory. So for one family, it was all blue beings, Arcturians they were connecting to. Another family, it was all grays. Another family, reptilians and Arcturians. You see, it is something that is held within our genetic history. So it's not, obviously I can see what people have because we develop that psychic ability, and anyone can develop that psychic ability. But there are certain traits that you can define in humans. Sometimes their physical features do help us understand some of these connections, these species that they have. So, but it's I would say it's more of an energy thing,
Okay.
and it's also archetypal because we the species, think of species as vibrational frequencies.
Okay.
Every single species is a different frequency, and it also comes with lessons. In the same way that we have 13 astrological signs, there are also these species, right? So these archetypes that this earth tends to self-organize itself in these 12 systems of consciousness, levels of consciousness and frequency. In the same way, species are also organized in that way. So humans begin to have dreams, experiences with some of these beings, and they recover those archetypal aspects. And I also see that as they ascend, they also begin to transcend the limitations of those species, because just like humans, they are evolving. We are all evolving.
Okay.
Let me ask this real quick, and Victoria, I'll let you come back. Hang on a second, but I had a follow-up question on that. And I'll throw up your hands. You can yell at me later, cuz. So based on that, if each species has its own frequency, so you had your big shining moment, for lack of a better term. Wow, that was terrible, Michael.
You're
After,
right.
I know.
The big one, yeah.
After you had been meditating, so if we were to meditate, set an intention, set a specific frequency, would I be able to essentially communicate with a specific set of beings or species if I went into that meditation with that intention, setting that specific frequency?
Yes, and we do have CE5s, right, which help us understand, right, that when we go into a certain frequency, we have more activity. So yes, frequency plays a role in that, but it's a little more complex than that too,
Well,
right?
that was just a basic, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because what's really attracting things is your subconscious core belief systems, and this is the part that my experiencers in my experiencer group we struggle with sometimes, because you might not realize that you have deep feelings of unworthiness. You might not realize how deep those emotions go. And that is a frequency. And then when you have a contact experience and that's mirrored in some experience, you are, disappointed or you are fearful. So we're kind of working hand in hand with these species to evolve. They evolve in the same way that we evolve with them. They also become, well, they're already lucid, but on a different level. But they are affected by the interaction. It's always an exchange. We exchange with everything. The key is that we remember the experience. The more lucid that we become in these experiences, the more we can benefit from them. And it's really not a matter of looking at, is it good, is it bad? How do we need to grow from this experience? What do we need to learn from that experience? That is the key. And it goes, that is what really affects the DNA in order for activation. Okay, so the activation of DNA, as I mentioned, it's the expansion of our consciousness. What does that mean? It means that you're expanding your awareness from a very myopic perception right, of this immediate material realm into a multidimensional awareness. You are seeing yourself as multidimensional. You're aware of your multidimensional bodies. You are becoming lucid in your every moment, in the present moment, as well as dream state. So this is very important, because only then is the human able to apply free will, and that's the key. The most important is that we recover our free will, and in order to recover that free will is really a state of unconditional self-love. That is the key. That the embodiment of that unconditional love is the embodiment of the 0 point, bioelectrically, architecturally in the body. This is when our vortex is spinning the fastest, and we can go into many dimensions simultaneously. Yeah.
Go ahead, Victoria.
Okay. Now I've got a lot of questions. Okay. Just throw this one out here. You can answer it in a second if you want. Do you think the abduction experiences in general are part of our soul contract? That's my first question. And then I do see E5, whenever the weather's cool. I'm in Texas, so it's never really that cool. But as we're looking up, looking for things zipping around in the sky, we're not really seeing them. But the last time we did CE5, there were a couple of us who saw glowing things, that's just what I'm going to call it, on the ground, just at the edge of the shadows. Do you think we saw them because we were attuned to a certain frequency, and that the other people were not attuned to those frequencies, and that's why they didn't see them, or just the right place at the right time?
Happens every time. I used to host CE5s when I was going in the conference circle, pretty often. But it happens every time in groups of 100. Sometimes only 25 are able to see the blaring light in the sky. It's unbelievable. But again, it's a testament to understanding frequency. It is a matter of frequency. And the more we understand how to use our bodies and regulate our emotions coming into that 0 point, the more the world opens up for us interdimensionally, So we're constantly surrounded right now in this room. There's beings, there's ghosts, there's all kinds of things happening around us all the time. So the human has to learn to regulate the nervous system enough to be able to witness that calmly, be in present moment with that without getting scared. As soon as you fear, your energy system contracts and you block your vision, you block your free will. That's why it's even more vulnerable to be in those states than it is to be, in a state of calm. You become extremely protected in a state of love and calm.
Perfect. Okay. So is it better to try and stay in a higher vibration, or try and figure out what the vibration is to contact like the Pleiadians or something, or I don't know how you find that out.
So basically, ET contact is from the inside out, meaning that we will have an easier time connecting to the species that are in our genetic history, in our genetic lineage.
Okay,
and
so
usually we will. Sorry, go ahead.
Yourself, basically, right?
Yeah, exactly. We're basically connecting with what is in our ancestry. We can experience many things, but again, as the human, and so what I discovered is that as I started to uncover more layers of these memories, I was seeing thousands of different kinds of species, and many contactees that kind of begin to open their energies in that direction also experience that. There's thousands of species out there. So yeah, and then the other part that I want to mention is that in terms of frequency, right? So yeah, it's a couple. There's a couple things that we also need to look at, because there is also military craft, craft that is terrestrial technology. So we need to understand that also. And so craft that is real ET contact, it's extremely advanced etheric technology. It's telepathic. Okay, it's very different than terrestrial technology. Even though there is extremely advanced terrestrial, you will notice the etheric forms. They can change shapes. They usually are constructed by geometric structures of light that can move. They also change in their expansiveness. people see orbs and then they are transported into the orbs. And when they enter the orb, it's like this gigantic, massive craft, right? So
Right.
that's technology that we haven't even accessed yet. There's robotic technology, artificial intelligence. There's the mimicking of telepathic communication based on neural network mirroring, but that's not what that other technology is like. So that's another thing we have to understand, that when we connect, we're connecting to many different things.
Do you think this could be part of the soul contract? Because I've always heard, you're here on this earth for this reason, and
yeah, you asked that question. I'm so sorry. In reality, I don't really believe in ET abductions, because based on my research on interviewing and working in hypnotherapy with thousands of experiencers, what we discover when we review the memories is that it's not so much of an abduction as it is a contractual agreement and a recovering of the memory of the bloodline, and some kind of exchange of information that this human has agreed to with these ancestors. Okay. So that's something that they begin to remember. Abductions, really abductions, when we start looking at those memories, it's usually linked with with military and Draco, reptilian kind of races. So those are really low frequency beings that are more terrestrial. So the Earth has many species. We think we're only looking outside. The Earth itself has many species within the center of the Earth, and we were modeled after, we're hybridized from these models of ET species. So those more terrestrials, which are really behind this kind of dark government model that we're kind of interacting with at this time, is something that is kind of changing right now. Okay, so that's something that we're kind of learning. And so what was your question? Let me make sure I'm answering that question.
That was good.
Too many questions.
Are the hybrids basically a bridge between the lower energies and the terrestrials? Are we I'm going to throw myself in there. Are we the bridge, basically, a conduit?
Oh yeah. But honestly, there are many humanoid races. We're one of many. Okay, because this universe is so expansive. We think we're the only human race. So we are one of many of these models of humanoid civilizations. But what makes the human so beautiful just in itself is that the soul is the key. Okay, the soul is temporarily it's experiencing becoming a fractal of infinite potential to experience this momentary through separation, and in that we experience and encounter other fractals of consciousness, which are these species. The invitation is that we quickly overcome that illusion back into unity consciousness. That's what the entire human race is going through right now, and in that process we elevate into higher civilizations, higher models of consciousness. And on this planet Earth, there have been many cycles of potential Earth beings and other hybridized species that have reached pinnacle levels of ascension and then fallen, and then reached and then fallen. All of these civilizations are actually existing simultaneous to our own. I know that sounds a little difficult to understand because, again, time is not linear. But we have that memory in our DNA. Okay.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time.
So we're getting down toward the end of our live public show here. So let me ask you this one last question, and then we'll wrap it up, and everybody can learn how to, where to find you. So we've been talking about a lot of deep concepts here, and when we look at what our public is getting for information, it's wonderful the work that you're doing, and how you're really teaching people the nature of the universe. But we look at what they're talking about, like congressional hearings, very, very like basic sort of disclosure of, oh yeah, we don't understand. We admit now that we don't know what's going on in the skies, and you have some admission of maybe some craft that have been discovered. These sorts of things. It's very, very kind of basic sort of disclosure. If we're just at that really sketchy sort of basic level now with disclosure, how long is it going to take to get to a real disclosure when we're talking about subjects that we are discussing here on this program tonight?
The thing is that, how I got my information is by my connection to my higher self. All this information, once you connect to your higher self, you connect to the Akashic records, which is the DNA of the earth. And all information is available to you there, to every single human. So, number one, we need to connect to that higher self. Number two, we need to deprogram matrix programming from our very core structures of emotional memory, belief systems, co-creation memory. We need to deconstruct that. That is the work that all of you light workers are really here to do at this time. So the focus has to be on that. When it comes to disclosure, if you listen carefully to that congressional hearing, they are talking about extremely advanced things that humanity isn't really ready to process yet. Just the fact that they talk about biologics, the fact that they're talking about the technology, the potential technology that they say that they're, maybe reverse engineer. Of course, they reverse engineer for much, much longer than they're talking about. So, the thing is, we have to wake up. We're sleeping. That's the thing. We are distracted with entertainment. We're distracted with politics. We're distracted with fear. We need to interrupt the patterns of distraction and reconnect with the self. And that's it. You're not in victimization and you're not lost anymore. So actually, the responsibility is on us. We don't need to wait for anyone to disclose anything. It's a matter of ourselves really coming into connection with right order and harmony,
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. So we are at the end of our live show here. Those that are members of the Connected Universe portal, stay with us because, of course, we'll kick over to our after show. Geraldine, could you let our audience know how they can find you and your work?
Yeah, sure. If you want to get in contact with me, I have a YouTube channel at Geraldine Orozco, and you can work with me at GeraldineOrozco.com. I have a free international support group at Hybrid Mother, and I'm so happy to connect with you. Thank you for having me. It was a joy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I do have the links down in the description for those that are watching here on YouTube. So, okay, public side. Until next time, if time really exists.